We welcome Caleb Sailors, Multimedia Journalist, SuperTalk Mississippi News. What's going on there? I didn't know if we were going to get the Chiron or not. I know it's Wednesday, so maybe we're skipping that.
I heard it a little more yesterday than normal being here until after midnight last night, so I was prepared. My PTSD kicked in from the Chiron. But what's going on, Gerard?
I don't know, man. A little bit from yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday was a pretty big day, wasn't it? It's a couple things that went on in the state of Mississippi.
Yeah.
Well, we had the general election yesterday, and I hope for all of our listening audience and viewing audience right now, I hope y'all were tuned in to SuperTalk.fm last night or listening to your radio dial with our station statewide. And we were clicking on all cylinders last night. Gerard, Richard Cross did a great job with the coverage and the guests we had on. It was just, and then you had JT and Alyssa working on the editorial and online side. I was kind of voicing the newscast last night, and we were just really a well-oiled machine. And then you had the actual elections themselves. Not really any surprises last night on the statewide level. Governor Tate Reeves held on and defeated Brandon Presley. Some would say that he won by a greater margin than expected, and some would argue that it was closer than they expected, depending on who you ask, which pollsters you talk to. And then down the ticket, though, statewide, none of the races were close. Delbert Hoseman won by a landslide. Lynn Fitch was reelected as Attorney General by a landslide. Michael Watson, Shad White, David McRae, Andy Gibson, Mike Cheney, all of them reelected by a landslide. So nothing new.
Yeah.
And really the only race that's being challenged right now and has a lot of implications is Central District Public Service Commissioner right now. As things stand, we've got 94% of the votes, or 95% of the votes in, and DeKeither Stamps is starting to pull away a little bit more. He's got close to a 3,000 vote lead over Brent Bailey as
the incumbent.
Yeah, the incumbent.
Yeah.
As absentee ballots come in. And one of the things about this election, too, though, is if Stamps ends up winning, you'll have all three new faces in the Public Service Commission, with Chris Brown being in the Northern District now replacing Brandon Presley, and then Nelson Wayne Carr in the Southern District, who ousted Dane Maxwell in the primaries. And so if Stamps is to win, we will have all three new Public Service Commissioners in Mississippi, which would be very interesting,
Yes.
change in leadership.
Yeah.
And there were a couple other close races last night, or more contested races on a local level. You had in Jones County the sheriff's race, which I've talked to our friends down at our Laurel station plenty, and I've covered some of the events down there. And this sheriff's race was hotly contested with incumbent Joe Berlin and former sheriff Alex Hodge. So 2 cycles ago, one cycle ago, Hodge and Berlin were neck and neck with each other. Some of the people of Jones County kind of gotten fed up with Hodge and the way he had kind of lost touch with the people, and Berlin beat him. Well, down the stretch, though, towards the end of the tenure, or the first term, Berlin's first term, a lot of people were expressing some, disinterest with him and how he's run his, how he's been a sheriff. And so Alex Hodge was like, look, I want to get back and do this. I miss being sheriff. I miss, representing the people of Jones County. I'm going to throw my hat back in the ring. And he did, and he did not win. Berlin ended up winning a second term. Ironically, though, this is one of the races where Berlin won by a plurality. Nobody got anywhere near 50% of the vote. Berlin got 33%. Alex Hodge got 31%. The Republican Macon Davis got 24%. And then Kenny Rogers, not the singer, got 12% of the vote. But Joe Berlin has been reelected with a 33% vote margin. And then we had another race here in Jackson on a local level. You and I were talking about this earlier. Shonda Yates, had a late push in her campaign. She was being challenged by Emil Wilson, a Republican who, championed himself as like, I'm the conservative solution for this city or for this area in House District 64. And he campaigned very hard. I live here in Jackson, and I would see his ads, I would see his billboards everywhere. Well, Shonda Representative Yates made a late push down the stretch and got some very big endorsements from some former city councilmen, from Sheriff Tyree Jones, and continued to push. And she ended up just bludgeoning Emil Wilson. She won. She got 62% of the vote to his 38%, which was interesting because I kind of expected that one to be a little closer than it was. But the people in the area decided, Shonda Yates has been a good representative, and she's represented the city of Jackson and the area well. And that's what the people decided yesterday.
Interesting. And she is an independent now, right?
Yes.
She converted.
Mm-hmm. Former Democrat, now independent.
Independent. So interesting. But it's tough. It's a tough district for a Republican.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. And my understanding is, just kind of taking a look at her voting history and talking to other members of the House, she's somewhat fiscally moderate, or conservative, pardon me, but more socially moderate. And she was instrumental did support the Capitol Complex Improvement District.
Yes,
and I think
House
she won
Bill
a lot
1020.
of favor of members of the House in that respect.
Absolutely. And the expansion of Capitol Police, too, and redistricting in Jackson. She's done a lot. And I've talked to a lot of people. I mean, I live in Jackson. I've talked to a lot of people in Jackson, a lot of voters, and a lot of people are very pleased with what she's done here in the capital city of Mississippi. And so Emil's push didn't really work, and so Shawnee Yates has been reelected.
Yeah, interesting. So any idea why here we are at essentially 10:30 the day after the election, we only have 96% of the votes counted? Is it your understanding, looking at the governor's race at the top of the ticket there, is it your understanding that that's just due to lagging absentee ballots, or there's still precincts out? Seems like Holmes County is always kind of late to getting their stuff in. I haven't looked, at county by county level, but just curious as to why we still have 4% of the votes out.
And for our listening audience, if you want to look at a county-by-county map, go to supertalk.fm. On the governor's race, we do have a county-by-county map showing you where everything has been reported. Right now, I'm looking at Holmes County. It's 93% of votes counted. So there you go. There's a little lag there. In Hinds County, we've got 95% of votes counted. Rankin County, only 90% of votes counted. So there's a little lag. I guess it could be due to absentee or late votes. I'm not sure there, but they did only 96% reporting, and then that race with Brent Bailey and DeKeither Stamps, only 95% reporting. So that's a central district of Mississippi deal. So we'll see as the numbers continue to come in. We'll keep you updated at supertalk.fm.
Did you happen to hear Mr. Presley's speech last night at his campaign
I
party?
caught the very beginning of it. I was actually recording a newscast, letting our listening audience know that Tate Reeves had been reelected, so I didn't get to hear all of it.
Yeah, I was just curious. I was actually making the rounds at the various events last night, so I didn't see it. But I did see it projected on the screen when I was at the governor's event in Flowood here. Just curious as to what his message was.
I mean, he congratulated Tate Reeves on winning, and he thanked the people of Mississippi for going out and voting for him. But he vowed that Medicaid will be expanded in Mississippi at some point or another, and so he harped on that again last night. But that was his kind of, I guess that was
central thing.
Yeah,
no doubt.
And he ran on that. He championed that. He platformed on that. So I mean, I guess he was going to go out to the bitter end swinging on that. And understandably so. I mean, he campaigned, Brandon Presley campaigned very hard, had a strong grassroots movement, had a lot of crossover appeal. I mean, you look at the ticket, you see where, below the governor, where lieutenant governor, attorney general, et cetera, just dominated their opponents. Tate Reeves didn't get those same margins as the others did. And so Brandon Presley did get some crossover appeal or crossover votes in this election cycle. It just wasn't enough to send him over the top.
That's true, but I think we'd also have to recognize that he spent $13 million on his campaign, and these other candidates down the ticket, lieutenant governor or attorney general, et cetera, didn't have nearly that kind of money and didn't fill up all the media with ads.
And that's what Robert Bradford, who lost to Andy Gibson last night for agriculture commissioner, he was kind of telling me, he's like, well, I hope the enthusiasm at the top of the ticket kind of has a trickle-down effect, too, where people just kind of vote Democrat straight down the ticket. He was like, there's a lot of excitement in the gubernatorial race, and so hopefully I benefit from that, too. And it was neat talking to him and him being that honest with me about that. Like, he didn't have the money that Brandon Presley had. None of them did.
Yeah.
And so they were kind of just hoping that would benefit them in the long run last night.
And it's, you look at the numbers. Most of his money came from out of state. The Democratic Governors Association, how much do they dump in the deal, Rhino? Like $4 million or something, I think, last I looked. And obviously, they had done some work. They had done some polls and thought, hey, this thing's winnable.
And I talked.
Otherwise, they wouldn't have dumped that kind of money in it.
And I talked to Commissioner Presley yesterday, too, part of our news coverage, and he told me, he's like, look, we've done everything we could to get to the pathway of victory, and I think this is our best path to victory. So he was very honest about that. I mean, he thought he was going to win yesterday, and and the numbers show he wasn't super far off.
Yeah. Yeah, closer than the election in 19, right?
Absolutely.
With Mr. Hood. So I thought he ran a good campaign, but at the end of the day, he's a Democrat in a deep red state, and that's just a tough situation to overcome.
And it's hard to oust someone who run on tax cuts and teacher pay rate. I mean, Tate Reeves had the resume to run on, and he ran on it.
He did, and he should. I mean, that's what he's offering. More of that, continuation, improvement on that. Appreciate it, Caleb. Thanks for coming in.
Well, thanks, Gerard. Thank you for having me.
Great coverage by the SuperTalk Mississippi News team as well.
And the numbers will keep flowing in, supertalk.fm. Y'all keep tuning in to us.
Coming right back with newly elected Representative Rodney Hall.